for a very limited amount of time.
I know Mr. Manafort. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but I know him. He was with the campaign, as you know, for a very short period of time, relatively short period of time.
It was extremely limited. It was a volunteer position. And again, no activity was ever done in an official capacity on behalf of the campaign in that regard.
Let me bring in CNN political commentator Michael Smerconish, host of CNN Smerconish. It is always a pleasure to have you on. So just quickly here, before we get to the Steve Bannon piece, how long do you think that line is going to work?
Well, I don't think it's going to work all that long. It's reminiscent of how Papadopoulos was able to attend that initial briefing and be presented to the Washington Post editorial board as being a foreign policy advisor when his resume, I can't even say curriculum vitae at the time, consisted of him having once participated in a model UN. I don't know if he was homeroom class president, but really all it does is highlight the lack of experience and credibility that he had at a time when he had a seat at the table.
Wow. All right, Steve Bannon, Michael Smerconish. Steve Bannon thinks that the president's lawyers have handled this Russia investigation, that it's been, he's quoted saying, an epic failure. The source says that Bannon wants the president to get aggressive against Mueller. He wants him to fight with a massive PR campaign, ask Republicans to cut funding, go to court over documents being requested. What's the likelihood the president actually takes his advice?
So Steve Bannon might be giving the president good political advice, but that doesn't matter now. We've entered a different realm. We have entered a realm where evidence matters and where critical thinking on the part of prosecutors and defense lawyers and a court system is going to determine the next path. I mean, look, I'm caught up in it in the same way that you're caught up in it, but it's a bit of a sideshow to sit and click as I do through all the competing coverage of this issue. Because in the end, it's not going to matter what the defenders of the president say and what the critics of the president say. We're beyond that now. What's going to matter is the case that gets presented in a court of law relative to those two who were indicted yesterday, as well as Papadopoulos and his plea and anyone else who's to come.
And you, sir, with your lawyer hat on, you say this case has now taken a significant step forward in terms of collusion.
Well, I think this is a more significant case than potentially the case against Paul Manafort. I would never have expected to be saying that 48 hours ago. I don't know that I'd ever heard the name Papadopoulos in connection with this case. I can barely say it, for crying out loud.
Me
but
too.
What it represents, Brooke, is a second episode. That meeting in June of 2016 at Trump Tower with Don Jr., with Jared Kushner, with Paul Manafort, and with Russian representatives being the first. It's now the second series of events where you have Trump campaign representatives who are mingling with, entertaining conversations with Russian representatives who maintain that they've got dirt. What is that dirt? Stolen material that came from a DNC server. So, yes, I think it's taken a significant step forward in terms of a potential conspiracy claim to be asserted against some of the individuals.
Indulge me, Michael, in an alternate universe in which there were a Democrat in the White House, what would Republicans be saying?
All the jerseys would be reversed, and they'd be saying exactly what the critics of the president are saying now. I paid close attention to Sarah Huckabee Sanders' briefing, and I heard her say that essentially trying to distinguish between Papadopoulos doing the wrong thing and the campaign doing the right thing. And she spoke of emails having been presented to the special counsel. And as I was watching that on CNN, I was saying to myself, okay, but when were they presented? And same question we asked about Don Jr. when we learned about the June of 2016 meeting at Trump Tower. Why didn't they blow the whistle then? You know, this is not the typical gathering of information about an opponent, which goes on in all campaigns. When you're talking about a foreign actor wanting to play a role in an American campaign, that's where you stop and you say, wait a minute, I need to notify the authorities about this overture. Even if it's going to potentially help my candidate, this is something you cannot do.
Michael Smerconish, thank you so much. Please watch Michael's show on CNN, 9 a.m. Saturday morning.